Hello, hello, hello! Ugh. Hello, book nerds. How's it going? I completely forgot how I meant to start the video. Anyway, so I watched the past two videos that I've posted on this channel so far, and I realized a very important thing. I haven't told you guys my name yet, which is not okay. And we are going to remedy that right now. Hello everyone, my name is Bibek and welcome back to Brown Boy Reading. See? That's better. And now back to regular program. So today I thought I'd share with you guys my 2018 highlights, starting with the most disappointing reads of 2018. But before we move on to the actual book part, let me share some of my 2018 highlights according to Goodreads. So my 2018 reading goal was 130 books, but I managed to read about 142. Also keep in mind that this list does include novellas, graphic novels, and short stories as well. I read about 37,725 pages in 2018, my longest book being Queen of Air and Darkness with 912 pages, and The One and Only by Jennifer L. Armentrout, a short story with only 2 pages. So with that out of the way, now let's move on to the thing that you guys actually came here for. So as you might have noticed, I'm not titling this video Worst Books of 2018 because in my mind, these books aren't necessarily worst books, but just that they were the most disappointing books for me. Most of the books in this list were very highly anticipated books or books that I've been meaning to read for the longest time. So they were like very high hopes when it came to them. And when I finally read them, it just didn't work out, so hence the disappointment. Anyway, without any further ado, let's just move on to the list. The first book that I have for you guys today is Not Your Sidekick by C.B. Lee. I first heard about this book in CC from Problems of a Book Nerd's channel. Watching CC's video, I realized that we have a lot of similar taste, so I thought I'd give this book a try because she was raving about it. But sadly, this book just did not work for me. So the book follows our main character Jess and her adventures in this world where superheroes exist. Jess's parents are minor superheroes, I think, and she gets, at the beginning of the story, she gets an internship at a villain's place. So, you know, there is a lot of fun to be had, there's a lot of action and adventure to be had, but not really. The problem with this book was that it was very predictable. And this is the thing you'll notice with a lot of the book in this list, because most of them, I didn't enjoy them because of their predictability. There is good things with this book, like for example, we have a biracial, bisexual rep, we have a trans rep, and you know, we have a cute romance between 2 female characters. So there is positives, but the story as a story itself did not work for me, especially since it's a superhero story. I wanted something more from the story for what it was. Like I wanted that to be action, I wanted that to be adventure, I wanted that to be a mystery, you know, and I wanted Jess to discover herself, I wanted that to be a cute romance, but the book was just meh. I thought it was okay, just nothing mind-blowing or extraordinary, so it happens. The next book that I have for you guys is Black Wings Beating by Alex London. I have read Proxy by Alex London previously and I enjoyed that book, and this book had been on my radar ever since I heard about it on Adam Silvera's Instagram, I believe. This is a fantasy story set in this world where falconry or falconers, whatever the word is, that's a thing. You know, people train birds for various purposes. And the story follows 2 twins, what's their name? Kylie and Bryson. While the story was unique in its concept, the execution was not really. It was like your basic fantasy YA out there. It just didn't have anything interesting or gripping to actually make it a good story. And I really wanted this book to be awesome. Like I wanted this to just be one of those, like, you know, big YA fantasy series out there. But sadly that was not the case. It's a very generic story, generic characters. I didn't find the aspects of falconry as interesting because when you start poking holes into it, then there are a lot of holes in how this society functions, because you can't expect me to believe that this whole world just functions, like its most basic function is bird catching and bird selling and doing things with birds. It's a little hard pill to swallow. So sorry, didn't work for me. So the next book that I have is Shattered Glass by Danny Alexander. This book was recommended to me by one of my Goodreads friends, and she and I share a very similar taste when it comes to books, so she thought I would enjoy it. This book was supposed to have humor, like really good romance, and decent mystery. However, I found that it lacked in all three. I mean, the main character was kind of quirky and had a decent sense of humor. It just wasn't to the level where I was laughing my ass off. I didn't. And the mystery part was very convoluted. It didn't make a lot of sense and just bogged down the story more for me. I did really want to like the story since a lot of my friends like it. But I don't think that this was the one for me. Shattered Glass just shattered all my expectations and just went... I have no idea why I did that. The next book that we have is Social Intercourse by Greg Howard. This book, well, I first saw this book on Becky Albertalli's Instagram story. She said it was like Simon vs. the Homo sapiens agenda, only with a lot of curse words, and that intrigued me. I think she said that. I don't have a screenshot sadly to show you right now, but it was along that similar line. So it really intrigued me, and I was able to find a copy at my local library. I read it, didn't like it. This book was problematic with a capital P. The two main characters were horrible people who constantly judged other people. Not just judged them for their characters, but for their sexuality. The biphobia in this book is just too much. That's just not okay. This book was a huge disappointment, especially hearing about it from one of my favorite authors. This book definitely did not live up to the expectations. It just completely ruined it, in fact. The next one is a fun one. We have Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco. Oh boy, hear me out. I have seen this book in a lot of people's favorite list of 2017, 2018. I think this book did come out a while ago. I finally did manage to read it in 2018. I had very high expectations going into it. It was supposed to be this gritty reimagining of Jack the Ripper, where the girl investigating the Ripper falls in love with him. And that concept is so intriguing and so, interesting that I really, really wanted to get into this book. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just read the back of the book, which I'll leave right here, and then tell me you didn't get the same vibe that I did. Having read it, the weakest thing about this book was the mystery itself. I figured out who Jack the Ripper was halfway through the story, so that left the other half pretty useless for me. And the characters weren't very interesting. Audrey Rose was one of those, feminist character who constantly demeans other women for their choices in life. And then our main male character, he was kind of he was another Sherlock Holmes ripoff. Don't we already have enough of those in literature and movies already? Do we really need another one? I think not. I am interested to see what the author does with this world and these characters going forward, but at this moment, this book just did work for me. Awesome if you guys loved it. I just sadly couldn't. So the next book that I have is one of the two Pride and Prejudice retellings that I have on the list today, which is kind of weird considering Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite stories of all time. Anyway, the book is Eligible by Curtis Settenfield. This book. So, you know how Mr. and Mrs. Bennet are deeply flawed characters, yet they're very endearing in the original story? Well, here they're just plain assholes. This one just took the fun out of Pride and Prejudice for me. So, this one definitely was a huge disappointment. I really love Pride and Prejudice retellings, but oh boy. Next one on the list is a book called Sea Change by Amy Friedman? So Sea Change follows our main character Miranda during one of her summers in an island called Selkie Island. And this book is supposed to be a mermaid myth story, but good luck finding a mermaid in the story. Sorry, spoilers. I honestly, the book was so forgetful. I don't remember what happened in the story. The one thing that I do remember is that the mermaids that I was promised just didn't exist, or they were always under the shadow of, are they real or aren't they real, kind of thing. So did not work for me. I just hated that. I just hated that veil that the author had on the whole idea of mermaid myth. Like, oh, do they exist? Like, one moment we think they exist, and the next it's like, oops, sorry, they don't. So no, this one just definitely did not work for me. The next one is called Far Far Away by Tom McNeill. So this story was supposed to be in the same vein as one of the Grimm brothers stories. In fact, one of the main characters in the story is one of the Grimm brothers. This story had very problematic elements that I did not like, and the execution was just fell off. There weren't as many magical or whimsical things happening. There were a few, I guess, but nothing that would save the book for me. Didn't work for me. Not as a fairy tale story, and not as its own original story. Next, we have The Brokenhearted by Amelia Kahane. This is a superhero origin kind of story about this girl who nearly dies and has her heart replaced with a mechanical one that gives her superpowers, and that sounds awesome. But the book is not. This book suffers from the same predictability that the others in this list have suffered so far, but this one is probably the worst one, because I knew what was gonna happen from like the first 10 pages. Like, I just knew it. Like, the romance was so abrupt, it came out of nowhere. All the characters were so cliche. Like, it was so easy to figure out like the plot of this entire book from the first 10 pages, that reading the entire book was just like, oh, I was right again. As a reader, like, as much as I like figuring out mysteries, I do like to be surprised time and time again. This book did not surprise me one bit. The next one is the second Pride and Prejudice retelling, and it is called Enthusiasm by Polly Shulman. This book came into my radar during the Twilight era. Stephenie Meyer actually blurbed this book, saying how amazing it was. Boy, was she wrong. This book is just bad. It doesn't even deserve to be held in the same place as an Austen retelling. It does Austen shame. It is so bad. The writing is so juvenile. I mean, I think it is a middle grade story. I could be wrong, but even then, the story is just... the story and the writing are just so bad. I mean, that's all there is. Like, the story is just like a very loose interpretation of Pride and Prejudice. The characters are not memorable at all. The story itself, the writing itself is just so juvenile that it takes all the fun out of reading. And it did for me. I generally don't DNF books, which is why I just pushed and finished this book. And it helps that, it was a very short book. But, even that was so hard. I wouldn't wish this on anyone, especially not an Austen fan. If you're an Austen fan, don't touch this book. So the next book that I have for you is Breathe by Abby Glines. One of my favorite tropes to read in romance or young adult is the celebrity trope, where one character is a huge celebrity and the other one is just a normal everyday Joe, and then they fall in love. And the reason I wanted to pick up Breathe is because, according to the summary, it had that. The main guy character was a superstar, and the main girl character was a servant in his house. And that's where the problem begins for this book. The power dynamic in this story was just cringeworthy. I could not sit through a moment of it. It was so hard to see these two characters interact, because every time in the back of my mind I'm like, oh my gosh, she works for him. She literally can't say no to him, no matter what he asks her to do, because she really needs this job to support her and her mother. And I was just baffled. And then the main female character, she's just so stupid. Her level of stupidity just knows no bound. There's a scene where the hero tells her, don't believe everything you read in one of the tabloids. Guess what she does next? She believes what the tabloids tell her. And then she gets mad at the boy. And that's our conflict. It's just... No. just no, like the whole power dynamic thing was a deal breaker for me, but then when you get stupid characters like this, it's just whatever. I think I really need to reconsider my no DNFing policy, because I've suffered through some bad books in 2018. And while we're on the topic of Breathe, let me also mention Until Friday Night by Abby Glines, one of her other new adult books. This book is just as bad as Breathe, if not worse. This deals with the whole bad boy trope, and it is just horrible. The male character is so possessive and so... I don't even have the words for it, guys. Just no. I gave 2 of Abby Glines' books a try this year, and I don't think they are the books for me. I don't think I can suffer through another one. So, no. So we're finally towards the end of the list, and if you have seen my November wrap-up, I think you have an idea what this next book is. The next book is Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. Oh, J.K. Rowling, why are you doing this to us? Please stop. Okay, so I haven't seen the movie yet, and I'm honestly scared to now after having read this book. But it was just so bad. As a screenplay, as just a story, the narrative flow was just like everywhere. Things didn't make any sense. This is the same J.K. Rowling that gave us Harry Potter. Hard to believe, but it is. Because I had to remind myself the whole time I was reading the screenplay that, okay, this is by J.K. Rowling, right? It's not the cursed child thing where it's only her name but written by different people. This book is bad. Or I guess the screenplay is bad. It's just really bad. I don't have anything else to say. It's just bad. And if you think the movie's good and I should watch it, let me know down below and I'll consider it. But so far the answer is probably gonna be not right now. Anyway, peeps, those are all the books that were a huge disappointment for me personally in the year 2018. Let me know down below what your disappointing reads were, and I'll see you again next time with another video. Goodbye!